my perfect weekend is not, hanging out with the boys. It's hanging out with my best friend.
You're listening to the Letdown podcast.
It's like buck fever.
One shot at a time.
That's a big part.
So, quick question before we even start any of this.
Yeah.
Do you, Peter, set up your own course, or do you have other people set up your course?
It's me.
Is it you? Okay.
Yeah, just me.
What goes through your mind when you're setting up the course? Is it, I want to screw people over? Is it, I want a scene? Is it?
So I want to, I've been a competitive archer. I kind of have two periods in my life where I was a competitive archer. Once, much younger, before I had kids, and then, the kids came, and, I don't know, Eric was maybe 5 or 6 when he shot his first, tournament with me, and that was my last tournament until about 3.5 or 4 years ago. I took a bit of a hiatus. But what I want in a course is I want a nice mixture of target sets that are challenging, both technically and just, your basics. It's long, or, it's dark, or it's narrow. And I want a nice mix, but I don't want every target to be like, my God, it's another black target in a hole. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be fun, because I've been there. Like, I wrote the book on target panic. Okay. I bought the t-shirt. I sunk the ship. Okay. And, so I know there's guys out there and gals and kids that are struggling with that. So I don't want them to say, that's the last time I've ever come in here, or that's the last time I'm shooting any 3D, right? I don't want that. Like I was about to say the peak of my target panic, or maybe it's the lowest point of my target panic. I was a shop shooter for a local shop, and like, we're going back, like, I don't know if you guys will recognize this, but I had a PSC G-Force, okay, which back in the day was a highly reflexed, very low brace height, dual cam bow that sounded like an Excalibur when you shot it, but it was, for the day, it was fast. And I had a brand new set of X70 clips, East End aluminum arrows, which was like the bomb in the day, all fletched up. And I had to walk off halfway through the second round because I was at arrows. Okay. And I started the day with a full dozen, right? And that was like, I walked off, went to the truck, and I would have left, other than it wasn't my truck, it was somebody else's, and I couldn't leave. So I sat down on the shady side of the truck, and I'm not ashamed to say I bawled my eyes out, because like, I love archery. It's what I've done like since I was a young teenager, and that was the lowest of the low. And I just decided I either learn, I get better, I find someone to coach me, or I quit. Like, that's where I was, right? Mm-hmm. And I took the first choice, and I traveled to the US to a PSC shooter school, had George Chapman coach me, and I stayed in touch with him. And for quite a few years until he passed, and he helped. He was the guy that taught me back tension on a Carter Insatiable thumb button release. And it took a while for that lesson to really sink in, and for me to really apply it into, my everyday shooting. And there's even times now when the anxiety from target panic will come back. So the long answer to your question is, I'm the guy that sets up my target sets, my 3D courses. And I want a mix. I want some challenging shots. I put in some nice, what some people would call easy shots, but I try to mix a little something in. Like, we had a turkey this year that was, I think it was 24 yards. Mm. And I backed it into like a nice corner of a cedar rail fence, so it looked natural. Nice. But where I put the pin, your feet were, like this, right? Because I'm like, okay, it's 24 yards. Okay, guys like, Bruno and Tony and Dean and, Bob Albert, all these studs, Mason, Greg Sedant, these guys, they're just going to pound that 12. So I got to do something. So I add a little technicality to it, right? For those shooters, and for the other classes that maybe, like single string unsighted, the youth and all that, I move them up, give them some nice flat ground, that sort of thing. I had another set where, the classic one is shooting through trees, right? And most of the time it's like downrange. Well, I put it like right there, to the point where someone with a 30-inch stabilizer, they're almost touching the trees. And like last year, I caught a little bit of hell from a few competitors for that one. But I'm like, no, that one's staying, because when I stood at the stake and I looked at the target, I'm like, I can see the whole target through that the gap in the trees was like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 inches, but I could see the whole target because it was 38 yards downrange, right?
Yeah.
But it's just enough to like,
Mess with
I
Such
don't-
proprioception.
yeah. So yeah, I do all my own target sets. I've shot, I think, five of the ASA Pro-Ams down in the States now.
Oh, right on.
And so I've brought some of that experience back here and tried to incorporate a bit of that, because we have some guys that are aspiring to shoot that, like Bruno's gone pro. Tony's, he's right there. You know what I
He's
mean?
on the cusp, yeah.
He just won Porcupine Hollow and the ASA Triple Crown here in Ontario. Like there was a time when I could run with those guys. I can't anymore. I can't keep up with those guys. I running the business and training the dog and running a shoot and all that. It's just my training time on the archery side is just, it's not what I need to be competitive. You know what I mean? So
Fair enough.
yeah. So that was a long answer. I apologize, but yeah.
No problem.
That's good.
So, and before we get too far into it, Peter, Lesa, welcome to the Letdown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, you guys have built 2 careers, like 2 separate careers, businesses, and you've got a reputation for bringing together people through the outdoors. And so tonight we just want to talk about rogues. We don't want to just talk about rogues. We want to tell the story of you guys, Peter and Lesa. What have you guys been up to this summer so far?
Shoots.
Yeah, shoots. We just got home from Porcupine Hollow there a couple days ago. Before that was Perkins. Yeah, that was Chris's shoot. I'm now, kind of recommitting, reapplying myself to get ready for Southern Canadian Classic next month, because I had a very poor performance at Porcupine Hollow. Not one that I'm really want to talk too much about, but
We don't have to go there.
yeah. And yeah, we got a new puppy back in, the
week after our event.
The week right after our event. So we got him. So training him. He's a small Munsterlander classified as a versatile hunting dog. So he'll point and retrieve upland birds. He'll run small game like rabbits, retrieve waterfowl in the water, and he'll also run big game, but we're not going to use him for that. I'll use him for big game recovery. So I have a few nice deer here on the wall. I have an even nicer one in someone's basement in Napanee that I shot when I was a young man and never recovered. And lost a moose as well. So it's not something I'm proud of, but it's the reality of bow hunting. And I used a recovery dog on that one. This one right here. And like I saw it firsthand and I'm like, wow, I got to have one of these. Right. So yeah, that's training him. He has a test the weekend after Southern Canadian Classic. It's called Natural Abilities. So point birds, retrieve some like bumpers in the water and track a live pheasant is what he needs to do. So we're working on that. As I mentioned earlier, got a beautiful walleye boat in the garage that hasn't moved in 12 months. So hopefully get that out and go catch some fish, or at least enjoy some time on the water. So yeah, that's what we're up to. And Lesa is a certified CALA instructor, which is water fitness, so aquafit. And she's also a trainer of trainers, and she has a new pool opening up, her home pool in Amherstview, reopening. I just built a new pool, so they're opening up later this summer. So she's
Nice.
ramping up to get her programs going there again, because she's had a couple of years absence from that pool, but she's been teaching in the city instead in the interim. So yeah, busy, and then running a business. Some know, some don't know. Lesa and I manage sales for Vortex in Ontario.
Wow.
And Vortex Optics, and we work with Bruno. We brought him on a few years ago, and that was with Bruno Morin. And that was a fantastic addition. So yeah, that's
Vortex Kershaw.
Yeah, we also do Kershaw knives.
Oh, nice.
And
I love Kershaw knives.
Yeah, well,
Most people do.
Yeah,
yep. Carrying one right here. This one's kind of a cool one because it's a Kershaw link, but it's a collaboration with Vortex, and so it's got the Vortex logo right there on the blade.
I bought Valerie that one at SEC.
Yes. Yeah.
My wife loves. My wife also loves Kershaw knives. So
awesome. And then we also do a line of footwear called Dry Shod and
Oh,
Baku e-bikes. But those two are kind of new brands for us. We're trying to make inroads with them, but with the economy today, it's hard to sell a $4,000 or $5,000 e-bike, regardless of the fact that they're like the Toyota Tundra, man. They're just fantastic bikes, super powerful, very well built. But most people just don't have that in their budget. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what we're up to this summer and what we do in a nutshell. So
cool. And so Lesa, when Peter's shooting, you don't shoot, correct? Archery?
Competitively, no, I don't. I just got a bow in December.
August.
Very nice.
August.
Nice.
Yeah.
I couldn't shoot it because I had an injury in my shoulder.
No.
So I just started shooting it
in December.
in December. But I normally shoot a camera instead.
I know a lot of people have changed their Facebook profiles because of you. So many times. I know I have.
Yeah.
My Facebook profile actually is still from the SEC. Took a picture of my wife and I when she's pumping her fist. So that was an awesome photo.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Lesa has this uncanny ability to get those pictures, and that's something that I'm pretty proud of because my shooting doesn't give me any claim to fame, but I'm married to the picture lady.
Nice.
Well, Peter, I'm in kind of the same boat. So my claim to fame is holding my wife's umbrellas. So
there you go.
So we're kind of in the same boat.
I heard you offer lessons too.
I do actually. That's why Bruno's doing Randy Morocco's umbrella. He took.
There we go.
Yeah, well, we should compare notes because while my shooting didn't get me into any shoot downs this past weekend, but I was umbrella man for 3 different shooters, and so I was in 3 shoot downs this past weekend. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Did any of them finish well?
Well, Dave Harper, he won the Triple Crown.
Oh, there you go.
And then
he's men's unknown.
Yeah, that's men's unknown.
Wow.
And Dave holds my umbrella quite often. He's one of the best in the biz as far as I'm concerned. And then I held the umbrella for Bruno. So he got second in the tournament and second in the Triple Crown. And then first time for me holding the umbrella for Michelle Harper. And
nice.
yeah, and she got second in the tournament and second in the Triple Crown.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Very
So
awesome.
it was a fun weekend nonetheless. Like my shooting wasn't all that great, but sometimes you have those weekends, but I still found a way to get into 3 shoot downs. So I was pretty happy with that.
That's awesome. So I'd just like to just go back a little bit before Rogues, before Vortex. Who were Peter and Lesa growing up?
Oh boy.
Go ahead.
Can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
He was the chauvinistic guy in electrical class who didn't think I could fish, didn't need to be in electrical class.
Yeah. Girls should have been in home ec, right?
Yeah, we fought all high school.
Yeah, that was high school. Yeah.
Really?
And then we met about a year after high school, and won't get into that. But things
became friends first.
And then we started dating, and that's the end of the story there.
Yeah.
Other than our electrical teacher said, I should have known years ago you two would get married because you fought in class like you were a married couple.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. I won't say what she was like in class because that's not what I promised you I wouldn't swear. So yeah. No,
she was a perfect angel, right?
Yeah, I call her my angel for sure. But back then, no. Yeah. No, we went to high school together, and we were that generation where they were phasing out grade 13 and bringing in what they call OACs, or Ontario Academic Credits, that would prepare you for university. So we both graduated grade 12 in the same year. We both went back that fall for OACs, but I think I was halfway through day 2, and I was like, this is crap. So, of course, no cell phones or whatever. So I just go into the office, and I had a summer job working at the local feed mill. And I called up my boss, and I'm like, did you hire anyone to take my job? And he says, no. I said, can I have my job back? He says, if you're here in 20 minutes, it's yours. So I hung up. I said toodaloo to the principal, and I was gone. And when I got home that night, my dad wasn't all that happy, but it is what it is. So I worked for the next year, and then we both went to the same college the following year. But in that time, Lesa, like I said, Lesa was doing her OACs that fall, and I didn't see her until the new year, and I was out with some buddies and she was out with some friends, and that's kind of how we met. And we ended up at, I think, Tim Hortons that night or something until the wee hours of the morning, and kind of developed a bit of a friendship. And then I think Lisa knew long before I did. It turned into a bit of a romance. And
Friends of ours, we had prom, and a friend of mine was like, "Are you going to ask him to go to the prom?" I'm not asking him to go to the prom. If you don't, we will.
yeah,
And these are two guys that I worked in their lab partners for electrical. And
one of them was Nick, right?
yeah.
Who did some
So the
filming
guy
at
who
the
did some filming at Rogues Hollow.
Yeah.
And I would think I was more afraid of how they would corner Peter
Yeah.
than me. So I ended up asking him a week before prom, and we went to prom. So
Yeah, nice.
that's the end.
Yeah, and then we got married, what, six years later. So that was 1990, and then we married in 96 and had kids in 2001. So that's when our first kid came. So
All right.
So, yeah.
And you have two
boys. Yeah.
Two
Eric,
boys.
which a lot of people in the archery community know. He's a competitor in K50. And shot really well in our tournament. He ended up in third, so he was pretty pleased with that. Considering Perkins was in his division, so he was pretty pleased with that. He shot at Chris's. I don't think he did quite as well at Chris's, and then he couldn't shoot at Porcupine Hollow because it was his best buddy's bachelor party weekend. Whatever, they rented a cottage and went fishing and drank some beer and played cornhole, and a lot like an archery tournament, just no archery. And then our youngest son Ryan, he's 22 now. Eric's 25 and Ryan's 22, and he's
as competitive, but
but
he does other sports.
Yeah, he plays basketball mainly, but we did get him a bow this year because he wants to bow hunt with us this fall. So,
that's cool.
Never know. We might get him out to a tournament or two. So.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, tell him it's such a blast. I don't know. I got hooked into the tournament bug. 2021 was COVID hit. Valerie and I just got bows, and then we met Carl Dorner, and Carl Dorner was like, "You got to try these 3D tournaments." I didn't even know what 3D was because we were shooting indoors, and at that point I just fell in love with the sport.
Yeah.
Were you Peter, were you always like an outdoors kind of kid? Outdoors? Did you?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Kingston, Ontario, and I lived in a little subdivision until my 12th birthday. My birthday's right at Christmas in December, and my parents had divorced previously to that and went to visit my mom for Christmas. And when I came back, we moved to my dad had bought a farm just out of town. So at the age of 13, I was kind of introduced to the outdoors, and I was really turned on by it. And I was out chasing anything I could with a slingshot and a Daisy Red Ryder. Actually, I think it was a Crossman 2200 or 2100 or something like that. And I got my first bow in 1988. Was my first bow, compound bow. So I was 16 that year, and proceeded to go out and lose about 3 dozen arrows in the woods. Back then, of course, 1988, no internet. There was a few good bow hunting magazines, but I had limited access to them, and I had no mentor. So I spent the first couple of years doing everything completely wrong. But yeah, that's the story that, and for me, my dad was a fisherman, and he was as a younger man, he was a duck hunter, but he was never a big game hunter. Well, a couple of years after I started bow hunting, I got a new bow, and my dad bought my old one, and he took up bow hunting. So
that's cool.
Nice.
But compound wasn't for him. He went and quickly bought an Excalibur. So yeah. But yeah, no, for me, the outdoors was always, the place where I was the happiest, and as a kid growing up in the suburbs of Kingston, I was always going off into the undeveloped areas and trudging around in the creeks, digging for crayfish or, whatever bait to go, so I could go down to Collins Bay and go fishing for bass or pike or whatever, So yeah, I've always been an outdoors person for sure.
Yeah, we grew up very similar.
Is that right?
I was the same as a kid. We grew up in it was like a rural subdivision, I would call it. Didn't have sidewalks, but we did have curbs.
Yeah.
But the outdoor hockey rink was just down the road, and then we were just surrounded by undeveloped creeks and bush and whatever. My brothers and I used to hunt with slingshots, and then we got pellet guns, and yeah, it
Yeah,
was all
exact
we're
same.
always out
Yeah,
there.
and
Yeah,
the other funny thing was I remember listening to your podcast with Tony Markick there a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, man, the our paths in archery are almost perfectly parallel. Um,
it's cool.
other than when he left archery, he left completely. Where
Yeah,
I still like I left competitive side, but I still bow hunted, right? So the reason I left was like I said, I went to PSE shooter school and worked on my target panic, and I worked really hard and to get to a good spot in my head. And I went to a club tournament in September, and it was like I said, club tournament, 40, 50 shooters, something like that. And I won the tournament. It's the first tournament I've ever won, right? And shot like amazing. And like a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? Uh, well, this guy that was in my division, he comes up to me and he's poking me in the chest and saying, I don't believe you shot that score. You've never shot a score like that before. I think you cheated, And at the time, Eric was just a little tyke and he was there with me. And I didn't have the best control of my temper when I was a younger man. And I thought, I've got to set a good example for my son here. So I better curb my urges. And I just walked away. And the guy, he was relentless. And it was just enough for me that I just said, you know what? I don't need this crap. So
yeah,
that's why I left competitive archery for like 15 years.
that's
Because I was
disgusting.
just like,
That sucks.
yeah, you go and, you work your ass off. Like I spent 2.5 years working my ass off and a ton of money to travel down to the US
Mhm.
and get coaching from someone like George Chapman and studied everything that I could about it and like really put in the time and the effort to get rid of this target panic, because like it was to the point where I'd get the bow back, I'd hit the back wall and the arrow would be gone. I couldn't get the pin anywhere near the target. That's how bad the anxiety was, right? And then for me to go and shoot, like it was a club tournament. It was not a big deal. It was like a $3 trophy, right? And to win it, to me, that was like, at the time, that was like the epitome. Like I had just climbed Mount Everest. You know what I mean? It was just like, and like every shot, all 40 shots were like good shots, like maybe not perfect on every one, but really good, solid shots. And it was the first time I ever shot above 200 and around, and I was really proud. And that guy just crushed me. And so I just said, goodbye. I don't need this, So I kept bow hunting. I wasn't going to give that up because that's in my blood. But yeah, it wasn't until I met Bruno that got me back. And it was just a chance. Like, so my career in working as a sales rep didn't start with Vortex. It actually started with an archery company. It started with APA and the ball in Saskatchewan. So I was his very first retail customer on his compound bows. At one time I owned serial number 101. All the ones below 100 were his prototypes and personal stuff. But I had 101. My cousin now has that bow. But
That's so cool.
Nice.
yeah. And I got to know Nabal and I became an ambassador for him. And then I ran his pro staff program or his ambassador program for a lot of years. And I was helping him out at a show in Toronto. And there was a booth next to us, Vortex Optics. I'm like, what the heck is Vortex Optics? Like, I've never even heard of it before. And so I'm talking with the owner there, Paul Grant. And I, at the time, I was kind of in transition phase in careers and stuff. And so I started to work with him a little bit. I took on like 2 or 3 small accounts. And honestly, like the amount of money I was earning, like he was sending me a check every 3 or 4 months because it wasn't worth him writing a check for $22 or whatever it was at the time, And it wasn't until 2010 that I went full time. September 2010, we incorporated then, or was it later?
14.
Yeah, it was later. So
Yeah.
we started as a sole proprietorship, but that's when I went full time. But yeah, we kind of got off the course here. I can't even remember what the original question was.
No, you kind of. I asked you what life was growing up and
Yeah.
like how you
Yeah.
got into the outdoors, and you kind of took us all the way through. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's kind of how my career got started. And at one point in time, I think we were repping 14 or 15 different brands, and it was ridiculous. Like I couldn't manage it. Lisa handles everything administration on the backside, looking after expenses and invoicing. And when today I was out of the office, I had to travel down to the Vortex office in Guelph. And so she was handling all the work emails for me. She's great at that. And
But back then, I was still working I left the electrical trade and then I started working clinically because I went back to school
yeah,
Right.
and was working in physio and
Yep.
come home and do all the book work.
yeah. So she would do it from she'd come home and make dinner for us and look after the kids and put the kids to bed and then start her second job at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. Right. And that went on for several years. So finally I just said, listen, it's too busy. We either need to hire someone full time or you need to quit and come and work, with me full time. And it took a few months.
It took COVID.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a little bit before that.
COVID
but
changed
yeah,
a lot of lives.
Yeah,
It
it
did.
sure did. But yeah, now we're a 2-person team here. And like I said, Bruno came on. So he was an ambassador for Boning or Bonning, however you want to pronounce it, the fletching company. And he was also an ambassador for APA, a pro shooter. But at that time, I had handed the reins of the team over to Nigel Reed. And I'm not sure if you guys know Nigel or not, or aware of who he was. He's since passed. He had some health issues and he passed several years ago. But I handed the reins over to him, and he brought Bruno on. And so didn't know Bruno personally at the time, but just through Facebook, he put up a post, for boning, and I asked him about some veins, and he's like, "Hey, send me your address, and I'll send you some veins." Well, a week later, this box shows a shoe box that's just stuffed full of veins, right? And I'm like, "Well, that's a little over the top, but hey, that's great."
Sounds like Bruno.
Yeah. And then I think it was a year later they did their first Southern Canadian Classic, and he had the advertisement on Facebook. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to repay the favor. So I reached out to him and said, "Hey, send me your address." And I think I sent him 1 or 2 pairs of Diamondback binos as a prize to give away. And that's kind of how our relationship started. And now, Bruno's Bruno and Carrie are family now, they're fantastic people. And he was the one that really got me back he lit the fire again for 3D competition in me. And so that's kind of, it's kind of interesting how it all comes around like that,
Yeah,
So,
it is. Yeah, it's especially I find I don't know I guess you guys have kind of heard a few of the podcasts. Justin and I run Rural City Bowman here in Guelph. A lot of these people that so we started my wife started a 3D team last year, and a lot of these people it's more than a friendship. It's
yeah.
and I don't know what it is about bows and arrows.
You're
It's just
absolutely right, because I compete against Bruno and Dean Higgins
Mhm,
and Tony Markick and Dave McWaker and Dave Snar,
mhm.
and as much as I compete against them, I bet you even more I'm cheering for them. You know what I mean? It's just it's a brotherhood, and these guys have become really good friends. And beyond the archery, Porcupine Hollow, we were set up with our campers, and right next to us was Dan and his wife, and right across from us was Bruno and Carrie, and then right there was Tony and his wife, and then Dave Snar and his wife. And it's just, we're potlucking it at night, and
And it's like, what do you got in your fridge? Because this is what I got in my fridge. So it's not always planned potlucks. It's just,
yeah,
you go to a place where there's a group of people and it's like, oh, well, what do you got? What do you got? And you just throw it together.
Yeah.
And it happens doesn't matter where we go for these shoots. That seems to be what happens.
And a quick little story for you. On Saturday, Mason didn't have a great day. There was a problem with his sight tape or something. And so he comes to Bruno, and Bruno's like, "Oh, just give me a second." He grabs his Athlon chronograph, grabs his phone for precision cut archery. Dean had the label printer, and they go out 20 minutes later. They got a brand new label for Mason, and he goes out the next day and shoots 24 up. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So that's the kind of community that we have. And
Exactly.
even though that's not the perfect example, because we're not competing against Mason. He's
Mhm,
in K50,
mhm.
we're SK50. But if that had been me, the
Same.
exact same thing
Same
would have
thing.
happened.
Same.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
Uh,
I
yeah.
I've seen people give on the line on a shoot off, give them their extra release. Their release isn't working. Here's my release.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that guy beats them, and they shake hands after.
Yep.
It
Yep.
doesn't happen in too many
Well,
other sports. So
2 years ago, Southern Canadian Classic. I'm in the shoot down. I'm in the third position. It's the very first arrow. And I got my son Eric holding the umbrella for me, and Dave McQuaker's in number 2, and then Dean's in number 1. And I tend to be a little bit slower and push the time limit. So like I'm ranging, setting my sight, and and put my arrow on. I'm just about ready to draw back, and I hear Dave next to me. I hear whoop, and then whack, there's an arrow in my target. And I'm like, crap, Dave just shot my target. And I'm like, that's a miss. And I'm like, I felt so bad for him. I'm just like, unbelievable, like I felt terrible for him because, I don't want to beat somebody when they're having a bad day. I want to beat them on their best day.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And it's not about beating them. It's just about competition. Like I want to compete with people when they're having their best day. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. And, the whole gang has said the exact same thing in different words and probably more eloquently than I do. So,
No, that's pretty eloquent if you ask me.
Well, and from where I always stand as the photographer, you see that in all the divisions. Like you don't just see it in one division. You see it in, the single strings. You see it in the kids. You start seeing it, in the youth. And it's kind of heartwarming when you start seeing that when you're competing against a group of people, which could be 50 or more people, and they all have that same kind of support.
And I don't think right now in Ontario, I don't think there's a stronger rivalry than Aaron Lee and Michelle Harper. Like those two in the ASA Triple Crown, they were like trading it back and forth, like arrow for arrow, and especially at Chris's, because their shoot down, I think, went to 8 arrows. So really strong rivalry between those two ladies, and nothing but mad respect for each other. And when it's all done, doesn't matter who wins, there's big smiles and big hugs. And I love that about this community that we have. And it's just fantastic, because when I left competitive archery, like I described, I went out, basically dragging my ass in a bucket because I was so discouraged by the way I was treated, and you don't see that now. It's just, it's, somehow the culture was changed, and when and where it happened and who's responsible, I'm not sure, but I thank them, and I'm happy and proud to be a part of it now, and to continue pushing the needle in that direction, so.
And Lisa, when you're behind the camera, is it like you're capturing some pretty, and like I I'll always look through all the photos of most of them are yours. You're capturing like I don't know how do I say this? 'Cause you're not in the competition, but you're capturing the competition, right? And you really have, like Peter was saying, you have a good eye for like, what are you looking for when you're taking some of these photos?
Well, a little backstory. I used to work for a photographer who did weddings. And we also did all the high school and elementary schools. So there was a lot of little things he taught me to look for that most people don't think about. And so I try to take some of those same concepts and I put it into doing what I'm doing. When I first started this a few years ago, there wasn't a lot of people taking pictures of archers. That was my main reason. And so I did it just because I enjoy doing it. There's nothing more to it than that. So last year we were up at, what's their names? Renee and Andy.
Oh, yeah, North Bay.
North Bay.
Yeah.
And the guys were doing the shoot down on a gun range that had culverts. And I got to sit in the culvert.
A ditch.
Yeah. Totally different to like standing where I do for everybody else, where I'm behind the bags or whatever in a safe zone. And it gave me just a totally different perspective. Just like when you have a baby, you crawl on the floor to find what's safe and what's not, right? Again, it just gave me another perspective. How can I get better pictures when the sun is behind them or the sun's in front of them and this person shoots right-handed and this person's left-handed, which is my curse all the time. Just trying to find the uniqueness. I watch a lot of stuff from other photographers around the world. How do they do sports photography? Some of it's very animated, like they'll take this cloud stuff that they put on a soccer ball, and when you kick it, it puffs. And so you get this big blue spray when they kick it. I'm not looking to have somebody release their arrow and have a big, glitter bomb of some sort flying off. Like, we don't want anything like that, but I want to get the authentic expression.
Yeah.
Just trying to,
I know Peter was saying it's a source of pride for him. Is it like when you're captain? Is it a source of pride for you as well?
Yeah. And I think for me, we all do events. We all play a sport. We all do something, whether of any sort, but nobody really takes pictures of it. And so when
Mhm.
somebody finally takes a picture of you doing something, you're pretty happy about it. And when I know that person's happy, no matter what type the picture, because I've had some people come up to me, how did you get me doing that? Um, and some pictures I'll just take and they never make it publicly. It just goes to them.
Look at that picture you got of me and Dean a couple of years ago, at Porcupine Hollow. So somehow or another, Dean and I always end up shooting together at least one day at a tournament, and it's great because we as much as we support each other, we're kind of poking and prodding at each other, having a good time. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but he was trying to reach around and pinch my ass or something like that, and I was trying to
That sounds like Dean.
at least I got this picture, totally unscripted, and yeah, I know it was a good picture. She has this ability to just
Hide.
hide and just creep around, whatever you want to call it. Creep sounds kind of negative, so but just get the archer in their natural setting, when they're not aware, so
Mhm.
they're more comfortable. And it's like you said, when people see the numbers on the screen, 5, 4, 3, everyone goes quiet, right? It's the same thing when they see a photographer. They're like, everyone's like, oh, suck in the gut, stand up straight. And, so but Lisa has this ability to just kind of grab those natural shots, and fortunately for most of them, they're very flattering. They're good pictures, so yeah.
Somehow you made me look good. So I don't know. So you got to be some kind of talented for that. So my wife,
She's
it's easy to make her look good. So
she's made me look good a couple of times too. So if she can do that, and you should be a walk in the park for her. So
obviously we wanted to talk about Rogues Hollow. Where did the idea come from? Like, what did you hope it would become?
thank you, Carl Jones. That's all I can say. So he's the one that bugged us continuously for a couple of years to start Rogues Hollow. And so he was the one, and we were immediately at both, I think, excited by the idea and terrified by the idea at the same time, because we had attended a couple of Porcupine Hollows by this by this time, and Bruno's shoot, and we traveled down east 2 years in a row to shoot the Eastern Canadian Crown, or what's called the ECC. We did a big convoy down there, and so I saw what went into these, and I was just like, my God, like I've been members of like gun clubs and archery clubs in the past, and still am, and see, that 90% of the work is done by 10% of the people. Well, in the case of Rogues Hollow, 100% of the work is done by 1%, like the two of us, right? And this year we were really lucky, Mike Woods and Caitlin Jones and the boys, Owen and Freddie, came down a couple of weeks ahead of time, helped me get all the targets out. Like, those kids are fantastic. Like there's no, like there is a great, as good as this community is, we have great kids coming up and growing in it, and for them to come out, and those kids are just fantastic.
You got to think in April too. You never know. Like, we're the first event with the ASA that week, the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
So in this area, April can be snow up to your knees, or you could be in shorts and t-shirts. I used to be involved with the local high school track and field, and I was involved with the national level track and field. So our first event was the last Saturday in April, and I can remember getting into the starting box and there being ice on the ground to dying of heat the following year. So archery's no different. This year with the weather, we couldn't get out to set up in advance. And when we could, then we got all that rain and wet and thaw. So we had to adjust like on the fly, but that was a week and a half before the event. So to have those kids come out, and
they carried every target.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'd be carrying a target, and Freddie'd come up, give me that. He'd take it and throw it in the back of the Kubota, and then we get out there, I'd drive out, and they'd carry them all down the lanes, and
they were so happy.
Yeah. So the whole idea for Rogues Hollow came from Carl. He kept encouraging us to do this, and so we picked up our targets at the first ASA Pro-Am that I went to, which was London, Kentucky. I guess that would have been 2023 at this point. and we bought our first range. And we did Rogues Hollow in 24 as an invitational only. It's like we didn't just open it up to the general public. We just ran it as an invitational, and I think we invited 32 shooters and 24 were available, so they came. And it was like a week earlier in April, and it was a real crapshoot. And we did have some nasty weather, but people still came and had a great time. And that was kind of our way of sticking our toe in the water before jumping in, just to see, okay, can we do this? And
Do we want to?
and do we want to? And is the property is the property that we have access to, is it appropriate? Like, we don't own the venue. It's owned by a very good friend of ours, and he's gracious enough to let us use it. And
that's why we have so many conditions on our listed on the website. Like, make sure you have proper footwear, make sure all these different things, because it's not our property, right? And we have to respect it if we want to use it again.
Yeah.
And some of it's his wishes too.
Yeah. But so we did the first year as an invitational, and it went over really well. The response was great.
Lots of feedback. Like, the people that were there, we could say to them, what did you like? What do you not like? What do you think is going to be a problem? So these are all people that are experienced shooters from different clubs to, shooting high-end competition. And we had a lot of good feedback.
And I have to expand on Tony's explanation of winning the bow. Everything he said was 100% factual and true, but there's a little bit more to it. So, working in the industry, I have the extreme pleasure of many other companies. We have what's called industry pricing. It's just friendship pricing, where someone comes to me, they work for a different company or whatever, and they want a scope. So we have an industry price, and they will in exchange give me their product at an industry price. Well, I had bought an elite bow. I got an industry price on it, and it was an ethos. And I was like, okay, how can I have some fun? Like, I want to have a few prizes, but I don't want to make it too much, So I thought, I got a brand new bow box. So Lesa went into town and got that little suction cup bow, like Tony described. I put a chunk of cordwood in there to give it a little bit of weight. You know what I mean? Then we put the bow in there, and I taped it up and put it on the picnic table for everyone to see. Well, the funniest part was Dean. He's like, oh my God, like, how did you get this? Right? Like, how, just for 24 people. And so I made up some bullshit story. I said, well, I bought this bow, I bought that bow, and they accidentally double shipped two. So I told total lie, like lying like a rug here, right? So I called them and told them, and they're like, oh, well, how are we going to get it back? International border and all that. So I said, well, we're having a tournament. Can I keep it as a prize? And they said yes. So, like, Dean was like hook, line, and sinker. Got it. Okay. And it gets better. It gets better because Tony won the prize. Okay, and he's sitting there with the box. He hasn't opened it yet. And Dean walks up and goes, "I'll give you $500 right now, sight unseen." And I was like,
shit.
In my head, I'm screaming, "Take it, take it!" Like, but I can't do that, right? So
that would have been cool.
He won that bow, and when he pulled it out, you could see on his face, he's like, he wanted to laugh because it was funny. He wanted to cry because he thought he just won a brand new elite, right? And then at the shoot this year, I'm drawing the prize, and I had like a peanut butter jar or something with all the something like this, like a jar like this here, right? With all the names in there, and I got a heavy sweater on, so I take the lid off, and I'm like, I'm doing this inside, and I said, before we draw the name, I should tell the story, like the story I just said, and I pulled my hand out, trying not to bring a name with me, but one got caught in the cuff of my sweater, and it fell down on the table. So, and it was named down. I said, okay, well, I guess that's the person that's going to win the bow. And I proceeded to tell the story about Tony. And then I picked the piece of paper up and I looked, and it's Tony Market. and like, just before I did the story, like, Tony yells out from the crowd, "You owe me one!" Like this, right? Okay. So I'm looking at this name, and I was like speechless for a couple of seconds, which is pretty profound because they generally have something to say, right? And I can't even remember who was with me. Was it Andy Shepard?
It was Andy or Colleen.
Yeah. So I said, okay, guess what, Tony? You just won. He goes, "No way, I'm not falling for that again." Like, screw you. And I'm like, showing the name to the person that's there with me, and they're like, "Yep, it's Tony Markick," and I'm like, "Tony, come and look," right? So it was. I think it was karma, a good karma coming back around to pay Tony back, because
He did win a good set of binos at the inaugural one.
yeah, at the Invitational, I did have a set of Diamondbacks that I gave him as kind of a consolation prize for getting the Suction Cup Bowl. But yeah, so like just the chance of his name getting stuck to the cuff of my sweater and getting drawn for that exact prize, it was just, I don't know, stars must have been aligned or something. Yeah.
It's actually, it's very cool. So I guess, what have you guys found kind of the, I don't know, like, I know, like, because like I said, we run events. We ran provincials this year. I guess, what do people not really appreciate? What, like, the stuff behind the scenes that people don't see?
They don't like the wait time after the second round of competition to compile the scores and get the shoot downs prepared, and then the time it takes to run the shoot downs. It's an unfortunate thing.
It is what it is.
People want to go. They want to go home. It's Sunday afternoon. They're tired. In the case of our shoot, they were freezing cold. And I totally,
because it snowed.
I totally get it. Because like I was at Porcupine Hollow on Sunday, I was just like, man, I am baked. By the time it was all over and done with, it was just like, my God, that was a long time. But it was a good time. So the challenge, like for the people there, we beg for their patience. We appreciate their patience. The way that they can help us, we were talking about this on the way home, is number one, write on your scorecard as clearly as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Check your scorecard before you sign it, because some of our people at our shoot, what slowed us down was they were counting every target and every score to check it. And I said, no, absolutely not.
No.
You need the name, the division, the final score, like their total score, and the number of 12s.
Yeah.
And that's it. Okay.
And believe it or not, people don't get that right.
Yeah.
They don't even add the 12s up right.
And we know.
Yeah, we know that.
And coming from a track and field background where you're running, 15 events with 3 divisions, right? We have to double check everything. So he's like, no, stop. So, the hardest thing is penmanship. We all have to make sure that is as clear as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we made a mistake I know I did in the data entry, and the person came up to me and said, do you mind double checking? They were so gracious about it and polite. And it was like, yeah, no problem. Up we go, double check. Yep. It didn't change who was in the shoot down, but they approached us in the right way.
That just made a bonus rank score.
Yeah. And it just made it easier. But trying to read some of the numbers, but once they sign it, they've said they've checked it. So
exactly.
We create the scorecards in such a way that your target score, there's a box, and then right below, you take your target score from the previous one, add it to this one, right? So if your first one was a 10 and your second one was an 8, okay, you put 18 down below, and then you shoot a 10, okay, it's 28. Keep that running total. And then I highly recommend that the 2 people running the scorecards every 4 or 5 targets get together and just go, okay, yeah, Justin, he's at 80. Okay, and Chris, okay, he's at 82. Lisa's at this, and Peter's at that. Yeah. Do that every 4 or 5 targets. That way you catch your mistakes sooner, and it's not a gobbledygook of mess of scribbles out and trying to adjust it, to get what your running total actually is. Because guess what? I'm speaking from experience here. I've done that, and my scorecards have been handed in that just look like a mess. You know what I mean? So,
I don't know. Did you find that the same with you, Chris, with your event? That was probably the more challenging part, people waiting?
Yeah. So the first, because I was new to archery events when I first took on the role of running them in 2022. I ran our first club event, and first of all, we didn't do pre-register or anything like that. So 110 people showed up that day.
Wow!
And I'm writing all their names down. I got to line up, and I'm looking at my watch, and there was only one other gentleman helping me. I wish I remembered his name. Now he's the sweetest gentleman. One of the sweetest guys I know. He's such a sweetheart, and he's collecting money. I'm writing names down, writing categories down, whatever. My computer had died, So I'm just writing stuff down on paper, and I was going to charge the computer, do it next. And then, so that took, I think that it took an hour and a half for me to get all the names in there. And then when they came back, I was checking scores, and I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be a fucking easier way to do this. So I'll swear.
Yeah.
There's got to be a fucking easier way
Thank
to
you.
do this. It took me 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours to get all the scores up. People are getting like really frustrated. And then the next time, because again, I hadn't really attended a lot of events, and then the next event I attended was a target event, and I realized there's 4 people at the butt, 2 people are scoring, and the other 2 people are pulling and checking. Right, they're calling out the scores, and then I realized like, oh, they're not. When they take it to the judge, it's already scored. He's just looking at it going, yeah, I'll take this one. You have that one. And it's got to be signed. That's it. And so the next event we did that, and it saved us a lot of time, but it's still, even when we did provincials, it took us about half an hour, 45 minutes to get started, but we only had 70 people at provincials, unfortunately. So, which was it was kind of sad, actually. I was a little disappointed, but, so we learned a lot. Like I learned a lot and then, like with the 3D team, I gave them a speech. I said, listen guys, like a couple of things before anyone goes to an event, they ask me, well, what are the rules? I'm like, guys, for the love of God, you're competitive archers, pick up the rule book, read it. Okay. You should know what equipment you need, and what equipment you have, and, et cetera. You should, and then scoring. The other thing is when you're scoring, running totals, all these things, like your running total should be good, or the 2 guys running it, or if you are helping scoring, should be good enough that when you get there, it's just writing the total down and then 2 guys signing it. And it should take 5 minutes.
Yeah. The longest, when you're done your round, the longest thing should be just counting the number of bonus rings, the number of 12s or 11s.
Yeah.
So
and
like from
and
my
I do what you
perspective,
suggested with the 4, like when I'm one of the scorers, every 4 or 5 targets I ask, what do you got for Justin? What do you got for Peter? What do you got for Lisa? What do you got for whoever? Right. So yeah.
And I want people to understand that from my perspective, this isn't a bitch fest, okay? Because we want, as Rogues Hollow, we want to provide a product that people want to buy. We want to provide a 3D tournament, an event that people want to come to. And
Agreed.
On Sunday, when they have to sit around and wait, I can see it in people's faces that, oh my God, what's taking so long? And I've been there too. You know what I mean? I understand their plight.
I think people got to realize too that it's not just their division.
Yeah, it's multiple divisions.
When you get the cards in, you're not getting the cards just for women's K45. You're getting 2 of those and 5 of those and 3 of those, and it's all mixed up. So the time it takes, we can either wait until everybody hands the cards in, sort them, and do them that way, or as they're bringing them in, we're trying to enter them in. And I think it's just nature of the beast. And I think as impatient us as humans have become since COVID, I think people just have to realize from the time the last person walks off the course, it's going to be an hour
or more,
or 2 hours, or whatever it is before the shoot downs are going to start, and just accept it.
We had phenomenal growth at Rogues Hollow this year, because like last year, I think we were 1 under 100. We had 99 show up. 99 shooters last year. This year
we had 57 show up.
157.
157, yeah.
157. So more than 50% growth.
Nice.
Porcupine Hollow this year had 191 shooters. And I'm anticipating a very similar number for Bruno and Carey at Southern Canadian Classic. And Chris had 140,
120.
120, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's a lot of data that has to be managed and entered, because we want to get it right, because the last thing we want to do is announce a shoot down and and buddy over here who actually finished in first had a really good round. We don't want to miss that. You know what I mean? We don't want to screw it up,
and then
because
putting the Triple Crown involved too.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we have to be mindful of, that we're making sure that everyone has paid for the Triple Crown, on top of, they're registered in the right division and all that sort of stuff.
I wish we had a way to every, like an iPad scoring system or something, but it would cost way too much. You need 100 iPads or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But I wish there was a way to upload scores.
They do it in Target, but in 3D, I don't know how you would do it. you know,
Yeah, I don't know.
you'd have to give I guess you'd have to give every foursome an iPad. Anyways,
Yeah.
I don't even want to go
Yeah.
there because
No,
No.
no, that's not in the budget at all.
it's not in
No,
the budget.
nowhere near the budget.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is people realize, I think we're fortunate. Most people realize what month you're shooting in or with the competition is how to come prepared for the weather.
Yeah.
Not every venue has a house that you can get into to warm up or cool down or, as long as people are mindful of that. I don't have a lot of struggles with what we did. What I see that we need to improve on is in the behind the scenes type of thing. It's always, how do you be more organized in doing anything, right? And it's just, we tried stuff the first year, like our first official year doing it. And then we thought, well, we'll change it for the second year. Went, oh yeah, that was a great decision. So that's done. But no, that one was a really bad one. So screw that. We're not doing that again. Right. So every year is going to be a learning curve.
Yep.
Like Peter and I always, after everybody goes away, we totally decompress for one day. And
More like 1 week.
Yeah,
but just
I know that.
what
yeah,
did you
that's about-
like? What did you hear? And we try to get some feedback. And we're just like, how are we going to deal with that one situation so it doesn't happen again, whatever it may be, So, we've got a notepad ready for 2027.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at April 17th and 18th
Yeah.
for next year
Yeah, so that might-
to do the Rogues Hollow.
Yeah. So that might be the official announcement, April 17th and 18th of 2027. So
Well, that helps. That helps an event we're planning between our. So we usually have a spring event on the long weekend. Royal City's been doing that since their inception. Is the 2 long weekends, the one in May and then the one in September. But we want to do.
Yeah.
We have another event that I'm working with Derek Demeline right now to. It's sort of like trying to encourage unknown. I'll put that out there for now.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Hey folks, the Letdown podcast has teamed up with Stray Suns Co., a Southern Ontario-born hunting apparel brand bringing high-quality gear to our fellow Canadian hunters. New tees, hats, and hoodies released every month. Use code LETDOWN15 to save 15% at checkout. That's LETDOWN15, all caps, to save 15% at checkout.
it's funny because after Dave Harper won the Triple Crown and, we high-fived and I fist bumped him, he says, that's the last time I shoot unknown. He says, I'm getting a rangefinder. This is too hard, he says.
That's too bad. That's too bad.
One of the things that's a big thing with our shoot, we want to make sure that we're not conflicting with the ASA down in the States. So if they follow the same plan as they have this year and the previous year, we're pretty safe with our date. So our date is completely confirmed once we get their confirmation.
Yeah.
Because for those that came to our event, we do something a little different, and we have a team pro shoot where we get our pro shooters. This year we had 3. We had Randy Morocco, Bruno Morin, and Christopher Perkins. They have 5 team members, so they're a team of 6. And there was a lot of fun and a lot of really great feedback from the 15 people that were involved. And we want to continue to do that. So I'm working on that to get a pro or 2 to come and do that again.
Any pro, lady pro shooter that shoots the ASA Pro-Am out there that happens to be listening to this podcast and is interested in coming up to Rogues Hollow, please reach out to us. Yeah, because we would love to do like a women's team there as well. And it was actually Jamie Graham that gave me another idea too. He says, put in a team of 6 of just regular Joes to see how they stack up against the team with the pros. So I thought, okay, that's not a bad idea either.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so we're looking for a female pro, and we'll probably add that that team of regular Joe, not to be confused with the SEC's average Joe. So a little different, but that's one of the things that we wanted to do because, like I said there a few minutes ago, we want to provide a product that people want to buy. We want to provide as close to an ASA experience as possible. And like you asked earlier about how I set the course, and I'm trying to provide that experience, because not everyone has the time or the funds to travel. Like the closest one is London, Kentucky. And for us, like we're in southeastern Ontario, that's 13-hour drive, 14-hour drive. We break it up by driving down to Bruno and Carey's and, stay the night, then we drive the rest of the way the next day. But
It's a lot of driving.
it also increases, the trip by 2 days, because you're taking an extra day on the front end and on the back end, right? And the whole pro team shoot I got that from the ASA, because they have that same concept there, and that's actually how I met Randy Morocco. I shot with him last year in Foley, Alabama, and you guys had him on the podcast there a few weeks ago, and it certainly came through in your podcast. That was a fantastic podcast. I'm not sure which one is my favorite, that one or with Tony, but he is such a class act, such a gentleman. And
True.
yeah, and I don't know if Randy remembers this, but I remember the first target of that team shoot, he was first up, and it was like a 38-yard whitetail or something like that in the wide open, well lit. And I'm like, oh man, here comes a bonus ring, right? So I'm watching him, and he's up there at full draw, and I'm kind of standing off to the side and behind him a little bit. And just before he releases, I see him do this, and then the shot goes. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And I look, and he's line cutter 8 out in the brisket. And I'm like, what the heck did he do that for? And then I got thinking, he's breaking the ice for the rest of us. We're all nervous, all these amateurs with the Randy Morocco, because like he's kind of the guy right now, right? So I'm thinking he just broke the ice for the rest of us. Now, the rest of the targets, he went on and shot a whole bunch of bonus rings, right? So, but I thought afterwards, I thought that was a pretty cool move to do. You know what I mean? To show everyone, hey, I shoot an 8 too every now and then, right?
Yeah.
Even though he did it I think he did it intentionally, but I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like Randy is. I'll tell my own little Randy story. So Randy's the first guest who ever asked me for an agenda on the show, and I was like, okay, no problem. Like I said, like, Jesus Christ, you're Randy Morocco. I'll do whatever you want. Like if you're gonna be on my show that has like maybe 150 listeners. So yeah, he showed up with notes prepared. Like he was prepared. He was writing things down as we were talking. Like consummate professional. Obviously a man of God. Like I totally have a lot of respect for that as well. And yeah, it was. And I think Bruno. I think it was Bruno 2 or 3 weeks ago called me when they were in the rainstorm and they were sitting in his truck. It was him and Randy in the truck. So they were joking. So it's like like you wouldn't think. And I know like it's just archery, and I'm kind of with Tony Markic on this. I'm a bit of a fanboy, so especially now when it comes to Randy Morocco, like I just keep track of everything he's doing. It's very cool. So it's very cool.
I went down to London, Kentucky this year to shoot the ASA there, and I was in the they have a new venue after it was destroyed last year. So I'm in the venue, and I said I got to go to the truck for a minute. So I grabbed the keys from Dean, because I drove down there with Dean and Tony. So I'm walking out of the venue, and walking in is Randy, and he's got his bow, and he stopped, put his bow down, gives me a great big hug. Hey, how you doing, brother? And it's just like, here's a professional. This is his workplace, right? Like I'm there as an amateur just to have fun and to try and learn, and but he's there, like that's his job, right? And he took the time. Randy and I have become friends, and he's the kind of guy that I wish we lived closer, because I'd love to spend more time with him. You know what I mean? But he took the time, maybe only a minute or two, but it meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? So call it a fanboy, call it what you want, but to me, it meant a lot, because here's a guy, here to do a job, and he took the time to say hello, greet me, and we had be genuine, and we had a good chat, and that's just the kind of guy that Randy is. And not to take anything away from Randy or any other pro, most of the pros are like that. You know what I mean? Like,
been our experience.
Yeah, it's been our experience that way. So, but yeah, no, Randy is class act.
Well, we had George Riles on the show as well. So
George was good too.
And George stayed, like after the show, he talked to us for about 45 minutes to an hour, just about, just shooting the shit. You're shooting the shit with George, and my wife's a big fan girl of George Riles. So
yeah,
okay, there you go. I've never had the pleasure of or the opportunity to meet George, but definitely like lot of stuff that he puts out there and listen to what he has to say, because he's obviously making his living doing this,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So just to get back to, you'd made a point there, Peter, about, we don't run this event to frustrate people. We run it because, first of all, for me, I want to see people smile. I want to see people having a good time. I always say, like, archery, these archery tournaments are more of a party around an archery tournament. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and you kind of have kind of reflected that as well. And you both have built careers around helping people in different ways. So why is community so important to you guys?
Well, without the community, as far as I'm concerned, it's just flinging arrows, which, in and of itself is a great time. But imagine going to these tournaments and not having the community. You know what I mean? Like, like just show up, shoot your 20 arrows and leave, or go back to your camper and sit there and watch everyone else sit there at their camper. So to me, like, it's what brought us back in so strong was, and Lesa, but at first I dug my heels in. Lesa was like, we got to buy an RV. So when we go to these tournaments, we can camp. And I was like, no, I'll just go to a hotel. Like I can buy a lot of hotel rooms, for the cost of an RV. Well, we bought a brand new one last year and we're going to look at another new one tomorrow. You know what I mean? But it's the community is, to me, that's like a core value, like for me now, because it's like, the friendships that I've made, with Bruno, Dean, Tony, Dave Snar, Carl,
and the other people that you don't see very often either, that are further away.
Yeah.
Like you're all in the same, I'll call it a parking lot or field. You actually can walk over there with a drink and sit down and have a chat and kind of relax after doing the competition and say, hey, I heard you're a grandparent for the second time, or, you can just be a little more out of that competitive world until you get the next day when everyone puts their shooter shirt on and pick up the bows. It's you're back to being a competitive time.
Without the community, we wouldn't have met two more of your guests, Marcel Bork and Warren Robertson, because I'm very, very happy to say I consider them good friends. Yeah. And because of the community, we met them and we get to see them a couple times a year because they come to our shoot and they come to Carl's shoot. And I think, put this out there, I don't mean to let the cat out of the bag, but I think Warren is coming up to the SCC as well. He's trying to make plans to make that happen. So
yeah, we're hoping.
So
and we went down there.
Yeah,
right? when they had their events.
They used to hold a tournament called the ECC, the Eastern Canadian Crown.
Excuse me.
I won a buckle there one year, so that's kind of cool. But that's where, like, without the community, to me, it's like, yes, I still love, don't take this the wrong way. I love archery. It's in my blood. I will shoot a bow till the day I die. But without the community, it's not the same. You know what I mean? It, like, the community enhances it, the friendships and the bonds that we make, to me, that's where it's at. And I think Tony touched on it too. Like, you look at the archery families, like, the Harpers and Mike and Caitlin with Owen and Freddie. And, now we got Dave Snar with little Caden, and he's just the cutest little kid,
Oh, he is.
running around kicking soccer
So
balls.
cute.
And, I'm not the Cookie Monster. You're the Cookie Monster, right? And, all these kids, and, we see other kids that we don't know quite as well, like Sophie McGavin. She was at our shoot, and I'm like, my God, am I ever glad she's not in my division? Because, like, you give her another year or two, she is going to be a force,
She's growing.
Yeah. But, like, without the community, I'm not sure that I would be as enthusiastic about the 3D tournaments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And the other side of that too, before we officially decided to do Rogues Hollow, it was the community that I spoke to about doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I spent hours talking with Bruno and Carrie, Jackie and Carl, other people who had run, events, not necessarily just archery, but events like, what did you find successful? What did you not find successful? Or talk to people who have gone to a lot of the events and say, okay, you go to a lot of club events. What is the thing you like? What is it that you don't like? And find what those little details are so that when we put our event on, it mattered and it made the community kind of come together, and we can all be different. Like, Carl has his signature stuff. We have ours, AIM, Bruno and Carrie. Everybody has their signature stuff. You guys have yours, right? So that's what makes, I think, the difference between just a little tiny shoot that you just go to fling some arrows, as you would say, or to make it meaningful and unique.
And look at the way that we cross volunteer for each other's shoots. Like last year at SCC, I couldn't shoot because I had hurt my shoulder, so I was taking some time off. But I said to Bruno, get me a blue shirt and I'll volunteer. I'll be a range official for you, or cart this here or that there or whatever, like I'll help out. Carrie this year, like when she was at Rogues Hollow, other than the fact that she was freezing to death, God love her. She was there asking me every couple of minutes, what do you need done? What can I help with? Becky Orton, she's right there in the kitchen.
Todd.
Yeah. Todd, like the job he did at Porcupine Hollow this year as the MC. I hope you guys can see some of the video because it was amazing. He had music going and his just ability on the mic is just fantastic. So the community to me is not just, the camping side of it, it's how we, help each other in the shooting and the moment. And also on the admin side, how everyone jumps up and helps out, because without those volunteers, like we're lucky. Like we got Lisa's sister, Colleen, our son, Ryan, he helps, and his girlfriend, Marika, help, and Becky, and, Andy Shepard this year helped us, at our shoot. So to me, that's part of that community and just how we all jump up when there's a need and take care of it. And outside of that, like here's another example. Okay. We go to London, Kentucky 2 years ago with our old trailer, and we pull into the campground, and I happen to look in my mirror, and I could see the trailer tire, and it's like the sidewall is going like a snake, right? And who jumps up and jacks up my trailer and pulls the tire off? Dean Higgins, right? Like he's right there. He's down there on his knees, crawling underneath the slide, working the jack, and like I was maybe not quite as skilled at it as Dean, being a heavy equipment operator and a business owner in landscaping and that kind of stuff. But I know which end of the wrench to hang on to, and I could have done it, but he didn't care. He jumped in there and did it, And so that's, to me, it's like just a fantastic group of people. And
also to add to that, Christopher Perkins joined us with the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
And, just having someone with his reputation join the community, like he's always been in the community with Carl's event, but doing his own, but being very grounded. It made it, again, it's just expanding that family and that the archery community in a way that we can do something like a Triple Crown, because we are all in the same area, and looking forward to next year.
Yeah, I like that. It's like I've been saying for a while on this show. It's kind of why I do this show, is to sort of one thing is to showcase it, is the community. Justin and I have been able to meet some really fantastic people like Marcel Bork, like Warren. I still talk to them both on Facebook. I talk to them all the time. Marcel would send me some jokes about the show or whatever, and he's always watching. He's always telling me, it's great, or he'll suggest a guest. Actually, he's the one who suggested Warren. So, and and Warren still hasn't released his video, Justin, so you got to get on him. But
I'll bug him on my end.
Okay. Warren might be coming back to Ontario in December to hunt with me at Rogues Hollow. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So again, there's that community, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's awesome. And for me, like, and this is actually a suggestion from Warren. He says I don't talk about myself enough, and I'm like, I talk about myself too much. So. But for me, it's like I've never really had a community like this. I wasn't a big churchgoer when I was younger, and so when Valerie and I first got into archery, we started to notice it's like, wow, like people are so helpful, friendly. They want you to they just want you to get better. They give you advice. They They want to take you and introduce you to different events, and it's like, wow, it was so cool. And then when I had the opportunity to volunteer at Royal City, because we had a bunch of older executive, they were tired, and I don't blame them. They've been doing it for a long time. Like I think Gordwood had been there for 10, 11 years, and Calvin had been there for the same amount of time. They were tired, and they're like, no one wants to volunteer, no one wants to help. And I said, oh, okay, no problem. I'll volunteer. I'll do the memberships. And then the year after, I never had a problem getting volunteers. That's the one thing I can say about our club is that if I call for volunteers, I get 20, 30 people show up. Sometimes I have too many volunteers, and I'm
Yeah.
not complaining. I'm not complaining, but that kind of
That's a
community,
good problem to have.
yeah, and that kind of community, like yeah, it's just it's something that it gives me a lot of thought at night when I'm just before I go to bed. Like how lucky I am and grateful I am for all the people I get to meet and such. So
And I think it's like definitely it's very strong in archery, like absolutely. But I think it's quite common across the entire outdoor community.
mhm.
It's just the values that outdoors people have. They value
Yeah,
family, and family doesn't have to be genetics. I got a guy that I work with at Vortex. I traveled with down to Guelph today, and his name's Reg Wales. He's one of our customer service reps, and he also manages the law enforcement and military sales. And met this guy 13 years ago. He was a hunter ed instructor, and him and I are, like we're two peas in a pod. We're like brothers, and love the guy to death, and would pretty well lay down for the guy if I had to, and knowing that he would do the same for me. And he grew up, not far from where I grew up, went to the neighboring high school, and he was a hunter and a fisherman all his life. And I think it's just the core values of most, if not all, outdoors people. And it's just a fantastic thing to see. um
yeah,
so yeah, that's what we love about what's going on with archery here in Ontario right now. Um, we're trying to grow it back. That's was kind of one of the driving reasons behind the Triple Crown. And I got to be honest, the Triple Crown, it wasn't our idea. I think it was more
Chris and Carl, I
Chris
think.
and Carl, and they were gracious enough to include us. And yeah, we jumped on, and I think it's something that we're going to try to continue. I know we're going to try to continue to grow it, and it's nice to see the numbers coming out, and we're going to try and figure out a few things that we can do to help push that bar even more with Rogues Hollow
awesome,
in 27. So
very
I think
awesome.
one of the challenges, if nothing, with archery is that there's just not enough clubs. There's so many hockey arenas and there's so many other, venues for sports. Volleyball and basketball, they do indoors. They can usually rent a school, but when it comes to archery, I think having a location indoor, outdoor is the biggest challenge for a lot of people. And outside of the insurance costs, let's not go down that rabbit hole, but trying to have a place where you can at least break even and hopefully make money to replenish your targets or whatever
Mhm.
needs. That's a tough thing. Peter and I have talked about it for years about bow shops, the lack of bow shops or, finding the right people to be running a bow shop.
hmm
Some people buy, bring bows in, sell them in the store, but they don't know which way to hold the bows necessarily, right? It's just another thing to add to their store until they get that bow person. And I think that's the harder part in this sport. We need to find more venues in order to have clubs and stuff to bring it on because in the schools, yeah, some schools will do it, but when you're in Ontario and you're in one of the government areas, it's hard to get archery in the
yeah.
schools.
One
Yes.
one thing I saw when I was traveling down to Wisconsin in 2023. That's where Vortex USA is headquartered in Barneveld, Wisconsin. We went down. A friend of mine lives in Michigan, and he invited me to go to Vortex because Vortex was co-sponsoring with HHA, Chris Ham, who owns HHA, a shoot to benefit some type of veterans charity. Chris is big on that. So Bruno and I joined my buddy Jose, who lives just outside of Detroit, Michigan, and we drove down to Barneveld, Wisconsin for this tournament. And we got there, and we had a day off before the shooting began and all that. So we went out for breakfast, and on our way, I saw this big sign. Like, we're out in the middle of nowhere, like it's like rural Wisconsin, and it said, I can't remember, something like Verona River Archery Park or something like that. And there was a 3D bear underneath it. And I'm like, dudes, we got to go check that out on the way back. So we wheeled in after breakfast, and it was a 30 target, publicly open course, funded by the local municipality, pay as you go on the honor system, $10, shoot all day long.
Wow.
And I'm like, my God, we need that in Ontario,
hmm
you know?
Mhm.
and they were all brand new Reinhardt targets. And I got talking with another guy there, and I'm like, if this was at home, these targets would be stolen, would be vandalized, would be shot to death or whatever. And they're like, no, that doesn't happen around here. It's just it's like,
Values.
I'm just like, wow, would that ever be like, we've thought about trying to do something like that here, but I don't, I can't ask our landowner, where we hold Rogues Hollow, to just leave the gate open and let people come and go, right? So, it has to be a municipality type thing on municipally owned property or something like that. But like Bruno was with me and my buddy Jose, and we had a great time. We spent a couple hours there, and they had target butts, like practice butts, and they had all brand new Reinhardt targets, and it was just a great time.
Mhm.
I wish
You almost
we
need
had something.
you almost need an organization that looks after the archery clubs and etc.
Yeah,
I'm being
yeah,
facetious, of course, but anyways,
yeah, yeah.
Didn't catch that at all,
No,
Chris.
right over my head. Yeah.
sorry.
What's Peanut saying?
Like the people that did show up
Mhm.
to help, Larry Reed, fantastic
Fantastic guy.
gentleman.
Yep.
He came out. He where we weren't sure on what to do, he stepped in and just did it. Gord Shields drove
Yep.
all the way from Muskoka to bring medals
It's like
on
4
Sunday
hours,
at 11
4.5
a.m.
hours.
and he stayed till the end of the event and helped us score. And then Tom Schnarr, once he was done on the line, came to help Valerie score as well, because Valerie wasn't sure what to do. She kind of had an idea, but yeah, and like again, we get back to community, we get back to helping, and etc. So, but anyways, let's maybe we'll take this to something a little more fun. So,
I'm glad you mentioned Gord and Tom, and
Because we have them.
yeah, because Tom, he helps us out with scoring at
Yep.
our event, and
Yep.
Gord has been, Gord is like a corner pillar in the archery community here in
Mhm.
Ontario, and what he's doing up there in AIM. And where
Physically.
I'm torn on nationals this year. A friend of ours, his son is getting married on the Saturday, and so we should be there. And then at the at Rogues Hollow, that property was formerly known as the Hellholes. The former owner, he still owns property that butts against us immediately to the south, and I have access to that property too. He's turning 80 on the Sunday, and so having his birthday party.
Mm.
So like, while I want to go shoot nationals, I have those two other commitments that I can't really bail on, which is unfortunate, because I'd like to go and support Gord and Barry and Jeff, because I know they're working their butts off.
They are.
Mhm.
They are.
But
Gord just doesn't stop, let's be honest. So
no,
and he was telling
I
me
don't know how he does it.
he was so glad that I took provincials from him, because he's like, I don't know how I was going to set up all these courses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to be able to do him a favor, that to me, again, that's what makes me feel like I've done something. At least I've done something for somebody who deserves it. Like he deserves to have that kind of help and what have you, right? Because he's, like I said, he drove all the way from Muskoka to bring medals so that
Wow.
people wouldn't be without medals on Sunday. So
Yeah, first class.
yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
So guys, when you guys aren't working or doing stuff, organizing events or working, well, what does a perfect weekend look like for Peter and Lisa? There's such
Sleep
thing.
in till 6 a.m. Start. Yeah. I think for us, it's, Lisa and I are going to celebrate our 30th anniversary in September.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And I think we're really blessed because, we, obviously we're married, we live together, we sleep together, we also work together and run Oaks Hollow together. And there's a lot of people, I think they'd be like, you know what, it's the weekend, I'm going to go hang with the boys, and, occasionally I do that. Like, I'm going away on a moose hunting trip in the fall, but my perfect weekend is not, hanging out with the boys. It's hanging out with my best friend, my wife, Lisa. That's the perfect weekend for me. And I'm not saying that because she's sitting right here. I'm saying that because it's true.
So we're
And
going fishing on Thursday?
I'd love to. Love to. Lisa is an accomplished fisher person, I should say. Kicked my butt more than once. And so the perfect weekend for me would be, spend time with Lisa. Right now, obviously, I think I said earlier, we got a puppy that we're training for hunting. So spend some time training the dog. Spend some time with my kids, with my two boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom, she lives here too. There's a little independent granny flat off the back of our house. So spend some time with my mom, maybe dinner and a glass of wine. Cook a nice meal in the Traeger, maybe a campfire out in the backyard, something like that.
And usually cleaning.
Yeah, there's always something to do, So
Laundry, cleaning.
yeah. I recently bought a tractor, so I maybe go out and play on my tractor a little bit, dig some
Nice.
dirt, or
What kind of tractor?
Mom calls it my Tonka truck. So yeah, it's a Coyote compact. It's a CK 2610. So nothing crazy, just a little homeowner tractor, and just use it for clearing snow in the wintertime, and got the backhoe on it. And believe it or not, the backhoe is a godsend for cutting wood, because we heat our house with wood. So it's got a thumb, so you can pick up the log. I can jump down. I can
Nice.
stand up straight. Don't have to bend over and wreck my back, and
Very
just
nice.
cut all the rounds, and then pick up another log and just keep cutting like that. It's a godsend. And used to clear snow for years with an ATV and a plow, and capable, but very light duty. Now we have the tractor with an inverted snowblower, and it's almost like there ain't nothing stopping me now, but
There's always stuff to be done.
yeah,
We both have, like, outside of what we've talked about, we both have other things we like to do. And then you also have the honey-do lists for both of us. It's, when
Yeah.
you have your own home, that, okay, something needs to be fixed or painted, or, so there's very rarely that we have time to ourselves. But
Yeah.
in honesty, it's hard to say to someone when you're upset with them. It's easy to say when you're happy. Peter and I are fortunate enough that we can be blunt honest to each other and take it the right way. But our routine is at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Don't phone us, because we likely won't answer the phone.
Yeah.
Grab our coffees and just chill.
Go sit in the gazebo and take 15
Nice.
or 20 or 30 minutes just to relax. And,
Relax, or
Awesome.
do a heavy gripe session,
Yeah.
or dealing with the public sometimes is really easy, and other days there isn't enough rope to hang yourself with and them, right? So but it's finding that balance. Like you said, weekends, we don't have weekends. They're running your own business. You're constantly working. I work
Yeah.
a second job, as Peter said, so I've been heavily involved as a trainer, training. So I get students contacting me, going over different things from anatomy to, putting programming together for their classes. And Peter's busy with archery and the dog, and fishing and the boys, with both of them having interests in various things. So
yeah, like,
it's just a busy and no regret type
So-
of lifestyle.
so while Friday isn't officially the weekend, tomorrow afternoon I got a guy coming over to do a bow build and fletch up some arrows and stuff. So that's tomorrow afternoon. Saturday, I can't remember what's on Saturday. Sunday, we're going up to Lanark for a day of training with the dog, with a group. We're a member of what's called NAVDA, or the North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. So we're a member of the Ottawa chapter. So they have training days once a month through the summer. So we'll be up there for a day of training. And so yeah, that's, I don't look at that as work. Like, to me, that's like, you asked what's the perfect weekend. That's part of it, because I love to hunt over my dog. As much as I love bow hunting, I've learned over that, like, we had previously some different bird dogs. I've learned that there's bow hunting is solitary, and it's definitely something that I love to do, and I need that time, that meditation almost on my own. But I love working over, like, hunting over a dog that I've trained, watch that dog work, and take a little bit of pride in that maybe I molded that instinct a little bit to refine it, and so yeah, so that's the perfect weekend for us, is just to keep doing what we do during the week. You know what I mean? Like, other than, maybe not answer the phone quite as much,
Fair.
So, but I'll be honest, if my phone rings and I look at it and it's a work call, rarely is the time that I won't answer it. It's just being an independent small business person, because while Lisa and I are the reps for Vortex, we are not employees. We are fully commissioned sales reps. So we own our own small business. So for us to not answer that call is
Lost income.
lost income. Exactly.
Potentially.
Money out the
Yeah.
door. Yeah.
So Yeah. So we learned early on that, you answer the phone and I can't remember who told me this, but he said the most important thing is to follow up and follow through, right? And always be honest about it, right? So yeah, so that's, so for us, the perfect weekend is, maybe shooting our bows. Like Lisa said earlier, she recently picked up a bow. So that's fantastic. Training the dog, maybe relaxing a little bit in the gazebo in the afternoon with a coffee.
And I just shot my first 3D target. So
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
down at Carl's.
She shot Tina's Terrible 10 on the Saturday afternoon and did
Nice.
very well. Yeah.
Didn't lose an arrow. That
Yeah.
was the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. She hit every target. So that was very good. So yeah, it's and you know what? Sometimes the perfect weekend is something like Porcupine Hollow, because then, we get to spend time with our extended family then, So
yeah, it's living the dream. That's what
long-winded
I like to say.
answer. I apologize, but yeah.
No,
it's
no,
hard to
please
pin
don't.
down the exact perfect weekend,
No, don't apologize. This is it's so far. I'm getting to the point where I got to wrap it up, and I don't really want to. So, I'll be honest.
Well, you said you hadn't had a couple before.
No, we never have. No, we were, never. So it's yeah, this is good, really good stuff. But I guess I guess speaking of wrapping it up, I don't want to take up all your evening. So 20 years from now, when people hear the names Peter and Lesa Ray, what do you hope they remember?
For me, it's, I think in the archery community, I hope that we are remembered for, a good quality shoot, a shoot that people want to attend. And I keep saying a shoot or a tournament, and Carrie, Bruno's wife, corrected me one time. It's not a tournament. It's not an event. It's not a tournament or a shoot. It's an event. It's like I think you said, Chris, a minute ago, it's a party around an archery tournament, right? So I'd like to be remembered that Rogues Hollow was one of the premier events in Ontario. That's what we're shooting for. I'd like to be remembered as a loving husband, a loyal friend, and hopefully a decent father. That's kind of what I'd like to be remembered as. I don't know. I think that kind of wraps it up. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds pretty good to me. And what do you hope
And
Rogues
I
Hollow?
I don't have pronouns. I have adjectives. Handsome and brilliant. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you guys would use that from now on.
Okay, sure. I guess lastly, what do you hope Rogues Hollow means to the outdoor community long after you're done running it?
My dad used to say something: if you're going to gripe about it, do something about it. If you're going to gripe, and don't gripe if you're not going to do something about it. And I hope from my perspective, because I've been listening to a lot of people complain about various parts of events, and I'm hoping that the events are, in whole, meeting the needs of the community, that we can provide that service, provide that experience, along with other great events, have some little bit of consistency, but definitely our own flair on each of the events to keep the community involved. And I hope people realize the effort that goes into that in itself, and that we can accomplish it.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone, and you probably felt this is the same way, Chris, there's things about when you put on an event, you're like, why did I do it that way? Or why couldn't I have done it this better? Like you always are one to judge yourself first, and usually harder than anybody else. I've got my other job figured out, because I'm not the one who's, at the top of the chain there. I'm just a person on one of the rungs. So I hope I'm doing my job well. And I feel from what I hear, I do my job well. And I hope I have that same image, I guess, by doing this with the archery community, because it's not my first love. It's not my first love.
Fair.
But yeah, but I think it's becoming something that you're passionate
Well, I've
about.
been watching you guys shoot for so long. I thought maybe you'd better pick up a bow sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Rogues Hollow is
Potentially.
we started it, with the encouragement of some of our friends in the community and so on and so forth, but it's now growing on its own, it seems, and the whole idea is just to bring everybody together to have a good time.
Bring the youth and women up.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah, Lisa's really working hard for the youth and the women. Like something Lesa did last year that was very, very small, but turned out to be very, very big. She got bouquets of
Sponsor.
flowers. She got a local florist to sponsor us
Oh,
for
that's
all
awesome.
of the women shooters.
Nice.
And there is a fierce competitor in Ontario that it was like,
It meant more having
it was like
the smile on
to-
their faces.
to her, she was just amazed. She was like, no one's ever given me flowers at an archery tournament before. And like, she's used to like a medal or a buckle or, whatever. And she was like, this is great. You know what I mean? And so like, that's something we're going to do every year, something very small, but it turned out to be, something big. Right. So we're trying to use Rogues Hollow as a vehicle just to, better the sport of archery in Ontario, bring the community together and offer, like, yes, we want it to be an ASA experience, but we want to have our own identity or flavor to it as well. You know what I mean? So, and I think the property just in itself, like, I know you guys haven't been to Rogues Hollow yet. So
Unfortunately not yet. No.
hope you can make it some year. Love to see you, but we have a very, very unique property, and
I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Against my shirt.
yeah. So we have a 15-foot tall stone inishtuk on our property. That's kind of what it looks like.
Cool.
It's over 80 tons of limestone, and it's right in the middle of
Wow.
A course. And there's two one target on either side of it, so you get to see this thing up close and personal. And it's such a unique and beautiful property that that's kind of our signature is the property, and then of course the pro team shoot. So we're hoping that we get remembered for offering a very good shoot with something just a little bit different, that brings the community together. The only thing that we're missing, and Carl will tell you this. The only thing that we're missing is camping, because we just, the property is so densely wooded, and we have a long driveway in, and then we have a small parking lot, and
It's protected.
and part of it is it's classified as ANSI, which is Area of Natural Scientific Interest. So you can do anything on it that you want that's normal rural activities like cut firewood or farming or whatever, but you're not allowed to alter the landscape to develop it or anything like that. So, and right now, yes, there is an area that we're talking with the landowner to maybe do a little bit of clearing so we can have camping, but right now we just can't offer camping. So that's the downside of Rogues Hollow, unfortunately. This year we got camping about 7 or 8 minutes away at a friend of mine that's a neighbor, just one concession down, and he said, yeah, it's many campers as you want right here. So
Nice.
it's just not
Awesome.
at the venue. Right. So
Yeah, awesome. So on that note, sorry, I'm having a hard time speaking here, but on that note, that was Letdown. If you guys just want to hang out for a bit, we'll just gonna stop the video now.
I'm Justin Harrison. You can find me on Instagram at Justy_785 or on Facebook. Just look up Justin Harrison.
I'm Misha Corso. You can find me on Instagram at Misha Corso. And if you're looking for some great bow hunting and sport shooting merch, look up Stray Sons Archery on Instagram.
I'm Crystal Fleur. If you want to find us, the show is Letdown Podcast on Spotify and YouTube. And on Instagram and Facebook, you can find us at the Letdown Podcast. Catch you next time. This was The Letdown. Thank you for listening. This was The Letdown.